So we start off, you want to choose like a medium heat, a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and a whole white onion. The big thing about risotto is when you add the rice into the pan, you've got to continue to stir it. And what that eventually does is create this beautiful creaminess in the risotto. If done right, it should take you about 40 minutes. So you can see how that onion's starting to become translucent, right? It's time to add your garlic. Just that. I mean, it's 2 ingredients, onions and garlic. It just smells so good. Okay, so you can see what's happened. The garlic started to really let go of all of its fragrance. In a minute, it's going to start turning brown. We don't want that minute to come. So here's how you stop it. Grab your rice, and we're going to just slowly add that rice to the pan. Just like that. And like I said, you sear it. Before you add any liquid, you now start to cook. So you can see that rice just starting to turn translucent. That's the rice telling you, give me a drink, I'm thirsty. I've got just the thing, some dry Italian white wine. About 2/3 of a cup. And then you start the risotto process. It's just stir, stir, stir. So the more you stir it, the more creamy your risotto is going to become. Because think about all those little rice pieces just rubbing up against each other. And what they do is they're just slowly releasing a little bit of their starchiness. Now it becomes that slow, wonderful process of just adding a little bit of stock at a time. So I've got my jug pan here, and just stir. An old friend of mine said, the reason you make risotto is so you can drink wine. Because I guess the idea is that just needs a stir every now and then, which gives you plenty of time to, you know, catch up with the neighbours. Cheers. Nothing like cheap cooking wine. A little more stock, a little more stir, a little more vino. When I first moved to London, I worked in a restaurant called the Mirabelle, and I was on the pasta and risotto station, and I made a lot of risotto. It was like every single day that I'd make risotto. So I've spent my time over a risotto pan. It never used to be a stress-free experience. However, spending more time in Italy, learning more about the ways of the locals, I've come to really love it. Now, I know that this is still going to be too al dente, but it is good to get into the habit of just tasting things even when you know they're not ready. And that way, yeah, still chewy, but even more than that, it's a little crunchy and a little tasteless, which means you haven't stirred enough. So you've got to keep stirring, you've got to keep turning that into a beautiful creamy pot of risotto. Build up your layers of flavour, a little bit of salt, and of course, a little bit of pepe. Did I say a little bit of pepe? I was lying. I'm using chicken stock. You could use a mushroom stock or a vegetable stock if you prefer, but I think that chicken stock gives it a real depth of flavour. This is bubbling away. It's looking wonderful. I now understand why Italian grandmothers have big, strong arms because they're stirring risotto all day long. Oh yes, it is done. Now, it's been the most relaxing 45 minutes of your day until now. Because now you've got to get that fat in there quickly, and then you have to cool it down as fast as you possibly can. Now, a lot of people will tell you that this kind of risotto should have Parmesan. Oh no, my friends. Pecorino Romano. It's a beautiful cheese, and of course it's from Rome, but wow, it is such a wonderful flavor. You go ahead and grate about 100 grams, which is probably more like a cup. If you're looking for an exact measurement, it's that much. Give it a stir, and then you add the butter. Have a little taste, make sure the seasoning's right. That is pretty good. The pepper should be right at the edge for you. You should be like, have I put too much pepper? The answer's probably no. Once all the cheese, once all the butter's melted, just spread it out over the tray and then pop it in the fridge. Before you actually make the balls, you need to find the surprise. My surprise is this beautiful buffalo mozzarella. So all I'm gonna do here is tear this into little pieces. How big you make these is entirely up to you. But don't forget, if the mozzarella in the center is too small, then you won't even notice that it's there. So my advice is be generous. So I've got this set to 350. That way it's gonna be hot enough to get that beautiful golden color, but not so hot that it's gonna burn the outside and not get all the way through to melt that cheese. So once the rice has had time to cool down, it looks like this. It sits quite firm. We're gonna take a couple of eggs, give those a quick whisk. No fellas, those eggs weren't for you. Tell what I give them for a snack. Then, Pecorino Romano, about half a cup of breadcrumbs. It's actually mine. Lemon, black pepper, and thyme. But if you don't have that, you can just use panko with a little bit of black pepper and a little lemon zest in. This kind of gives it a nice, light, fluffy texture, if you will. You put the eggs and the breadcrumbs in there, and then about 2 cups of cooked risotto, and you can see how thick this is when it actually sets. You can try and use a spoon, but it won't work as well, so I just use my hands. If you don't put the egg in the bread, they can just feel a little heavy. That's my experience with them. Take some more of that crumb, and then almost make a little hole right there in the center. And then you take a piece of mozzarella, and then you kind of enclose it just like that. Once you've got that little surprise in the middle, you go ahead and roll it up and roll them back through the crumb. I'm not gonna lie, my kids love making these. The kitchen turns into a little bit of a mess, but it's still good fun. Okay. There's something so simple, but so beautiful about process like this. You know, you just go off into another world, start thinking about your travels or why you're making the dish, and I just love it, you know. It's really fun. Now, I know there's a little bit of process here. First you make the risotto, then you have to form the balls, then you roll them in the breadcrumbs, and now we're gonna deep fry them. But the good news is you can do them in a batch. They're very, very easy to make. Once you make these once, I promise you, it won't be the last time, because everyone you serve these to will absolutely love them. My oil is nice and hot. I'm just gonna lower them in one by one. As soon as they're golden brown, they're done. You pick them up, drop them onto a little rack, and then this is how you serve it. You just grab a plate, and then what I like to do is finish it off with a little bit more cacio pepe. The key, of course, is it's crispy on the outside and perfectly ooey gooey melted mozzarella in the middle. Oh yes. And thanks for watching. Now I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you want more, because I've got plenty to give you. All you have to do is subscribe.